Hello and welcome to On the Corner, the official podcast of pitcherlist.com. I'm your host, Eric Samulski, joined, as always, by my co-host, Nick Pollack, back for a nighttime podcast.
What is happening? Yes, we are doing a late one tonight. It is 9:30 p.m. Eastern time on Monday because I am back in New York and happy to be back. Thank you all so much for joining me and Inosaurus for an episode of The Craft Live in San Francisco. It was a great time last Friday.
Yes,
and now
garage spelt with a J. I looked it up.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah. So I'm hoping it's garage, but I don't know. But yeah, we've got new updated schedules to talk about today, Eric.
We do, yeah. So if you missed last week's episode, first of all, why? But second of all, at this point of the year, we've obviously switched the list from a top 100 to a schedule-based form of the list. Nick has run down basically every single team's rotation, their projected schedules, first start, second start, third start, etc. for the rest of the year. We gave the same disclaimer I'm going to give right here, which is this is doing the best that we can with the information we have at the time. And tomorrow, one of these rotations may totally change in terms of their order. And that's the best we can do. We're going to get to a rotation at the end of this episode where we found out today that somebody's coming back into the rotation on Wednesday. And you're like, cool. Okay. So that shifts the order around.
Yeah, already messed that one up.
Right.
Great. Thank you so much. It's San Diego Padres. Awesome.
So that's just to say we hope that this remains useful as you look at just thinking about how to use pitchers in certain matchups. Understand that like you should still check in on and confirm that the matchups are still what they are supposed to be or what they were at this point in time. And my big disclaimer at the top, or my big takeaway at the top from this is, we're out of rest of season, right? If the next two starts, you're probably not going to start somebody in, like, especially in a 12-team format. Like, it's okay to move on from that guy.
Exactly.
And we'll get to one guy right at the top who I told a buddy of mine to drop in a 12-team league because he's a pitcher on the Arizona Diamondbacks. And the Arizona Diamondbacks schedule is fine, but not great. And their starting pitching has weirdly been fine, but not great. And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but like, I feel most comfortable with Ryan Nelson of any of these starters in this rotation.
No, that's how I feel here. And you might be noticing also we made two quick changes this week. I saw a tweet last week asking for the tiers and the strength of schedule to be colorblind friendly because it was really hard to tell between the two greens and the two reds. So Josh Mockenstern, who did such a great job helping me create these tables, really. And I looked into different spectrums that we could use, color spectrums and color palettes, and we settled on different ones. So I hope it's okay with everybody that we changed. We have a new legend at the top, but you'll see that light blue, which is generally good, that is a weak offense or a good solid starter, is the only, there's only one pitcher for the Diamondbacks that gets it, which is Ryan Nelson. Everyone else is a Toby or a Cherry Bomb, and Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly and Brandon Pfaadt and Eduardo Rodriguez. And it's just kind of, Ryan Nelson is kind of killing it with his four-seamer. Zach Gallen isn't killing it with his four-seamer. Merrill Kelly's kind of weird. Brandon Pfaadt doesn't really have great matchups and also still doesn't really have that third pitch, even though he got 10 strikeouts against the Dodgers, whatever. Mm-hmm. And Eduardo Rodriguez, I mean, yeah, sure, you can start him against the Brewers and whatnot if you want, but he's just kind of a Toby. He's not really that guy. So Nelson's the only one that's very interesting right now.
Yeah. And Eduardo Rodriguez was the guy that, one of my friends was holding because, when he was coming back, there was a little bit of like, hey, Eduardo Rodriguez, he was useful last year. And it's just like Houston, Milwaukee, like I can't do it. And then, as you've mentioned, thought Rodriguez could get San Francisco in the second to last series of the year, but who knows by that point in time,
yeah, of course,
where we're going. You have a note, which I appreciate and agree with, that we both don't expect to see Jordan Montgomery return to the rotation. So, you can move on.
Yeah. Bye-bye. And even if he did, doesn't matter. Sorry. Let the bear hibernate.
I like that. Good. Right off the bat going forward.
Let's go.
A lot of autos though in the Atlanta Braves rotation. 4 of the 5 guys, you're saying who cares what the matchup is? You're starting them.
I mean, yeah, Chris Sale, yes. Max Fried, yes. Renato Lopez, yes. And Spencer Schwellenbach, who even in his down game of not having swing strikes on his secondaries and really his breaking balls, still survived against the Phillies. And also, I do want to mention there was one other change that we made this week, which was inside of our tables, we added 2 labels. One is off, that is the previous day is an off day, which is a lot easier to track kind of and keep up with the schedules as you go through the upcoming weeks. And we also added Sunday. That is so you can see where the weeks are to tell, hey, look, Reynaldo Lopez should have a 2-step between his Dodgers and Marlins start. So that's a fun little addition that allows you to kind of plan ahead for 2-start weeks. But then again, of course, Reynaldo Lopez never gets a 2-step. But
I would also add
yeah,
Sundays, and I know this from doing the Roto World blurbs, the lineup blurbs. Sundays tend to get a lot of lineup changeover. A lot of guys who are not regular starters in the batting order will sometimes get into a Sunday game, give a veteran, the regular veterans a day off on Sunday. There are a lot of times where you'll get a weaker lineup on Sunday.
Interesting.
I would also love for you guys to think of in the update, maybe we get like a, I don't know if it's too much work to put in there, but a DFN abbreviation for day game following night game.
Oh
because
man,
another time
we do actually, we call that ding inside of pitcher
ding.
list.
Because another time where you frequently get a lot of starters taken out of the lineup, and that can make a difference in the streamers if you're streaming against a decent lineup, but it's a day game following a night game, and that there's going to be some starters rested that may give you the push.
Oh man, I don't know how we would do that on top of Sunday or off, but I'll see if we can figure something out there. Hopefully it does help you looking at all of this. And really going back to Atlanta, Charlie Morton is a cherry bomb, always has been, always will, at least for the season. And I don't think that there really is going to be anyone else in Atlanta pushing through here. The only tough series is that Dodgers one left. And honestly, everyone but Charlie Morton, I think I'm just going to do it anyway. So that's Chris Sale, Reynaldo Lopez, and Spencer Schwellenbach.
Yeah, love that. We go to Baltimore. We had Zach Eflin come back and look great in course. And now is set up with a really good schedule the rest of the way. So we feel pretty good about Zach Eflin. And then, I think we feel, you also have in your chart, I think we feel decent. We kind of could switch Albert Suarez and Cade Povich. Like one's good at the beginning and one's good towards the end.
Yeah, I actually have this as a strategy of mine to go after Cade Povich in a league and then follow it with Albert Suarez the next day for 2 different starts in a playoff week. In a league where I only have 4 matchups or 4 ads I can have in total. And I'm going to be capitalizing on these 2, hopefully. I think Suarez is more stable after they go into Fenway. I don't want to start either one of Cade Povich or Albert Suarez, but man, the matchups are good after that. It's the Giants and Tigers series, and actually Cade Povich gets the Tigers twice. And then you have the Twins at the end of it. And I don't think actually that they would be limited in those because the Orioles are planning for the playoffs. That's great. You want the guys that are going to be moving to the pen or not really in that rotation for the divisional series to end the season. Also, maybe not like Dean Kramer in the last one. If that game means something, you might see something else happen that final day. I'm not sure. It's interesting, but for the most part, Zach Eflin and Corbin Burns, you're going to start all the way through. With Dean Kramer, I don't like it all. And even though he gets the raise, I just feel it's so inconsistent. Not to mention, is he going to start given the welt on his hand? We might see Cole Urban show up for that one. I don't really want to do that at all. Maybe something like Trevor Rogers or recovered Chase McDermott, or I don't know. I don't want to do any of those guys. So really it's just Cade Povich and Albert Suarez are the interesting ones when they have good matchups.
Yeah, agree with that. It's a rough schedule for the Red Sox. There's some kind of good matchups at the beginning, and then there's a real cold stretch. We were both really big on what Brian Bayo has been doing, except, of course, he gets a 2-start this week, and the first start against the Mets tonight, Monday night, did not go that great.
Yeah, not good.
It could still be a solid 2-start for you because he gets the White Sox, and that could remedy a lot of it if you combine the starts. But this is a guy who continues to flash, but be unable to consistently put the starts together. He's showing he is making progress. 3 of the last 4 starts were great and against pretty solid competition too. And you're like, this is going to be the moment. And then he takes a step back, and then he'll probably have 3 or 4 great starts to end the year and then take a step back. It's a little frustrating, the inconsistency.
Yeah, it's really painful at the moment for Bayo. Obviously, we're going to still go with him against the White Sox, and we'll kind of take it from there. If he does do well, then you feel really good. It is at Yankee Stadium, then the Rays and the Jays, and it does feel like that's a 2 out of 3 that's worthwhile, but also not so helpful that Bayo is a must hold if you need that start the week of the Yankees. So this is something that I think I've fallen into in the past, and I'm ensuring that I'm not this year, where if I don't really love the matchup this week, but I like the ones in the future for a starter, unless they're an absolute ace or someone that I just feel has a decent chance anyway against that good matchup, I'm not going to hold it. I'm not going to stash even just one game because there are so many ways to lose a week, and that's it. Who cares about the next one if you don't make it there? And if there are ways that it opens up a streaming spot, I have to drop Ryan Pepio in a league, which is horrible. I don't want to do that, but that's the only way I really get a streaming option, and that is a much, much better play than hold. So choose wisely here. With the rest of the Red Sox, I also want to note, by the way, I put these schedules of teams at the bottom instead of the top. And you might be wondering, why did I do that? Because the entire week was doing Control F to find players, and then I would Control F and not see the schedule. I would have to scroll just a little up to then see it. But now if you Control F, it will show you the schedule.
Right.
So this is why I did that. I hope it was really helpful for you. I'm all about UI UX, guys. Okay. But yeah, Carter Crawford gets the Mets, and I don't want to start him against the Orioles and the Yankees. So there's something else to consider. Same with Tanner Houck, same exact situation. And
correct me if I'm wrong. I'm a little more confident in Houck than Cutter Crawford, though.
Interesting. I don't know if I am.
Okay.
The last start against the Tigers, Houck really struggled to get pitches over to the plate. The line was good at the end, but that splitter barely made it back to the plate a lot. The sweeper wasn't always there. It was him battling through it. And fortunately, when he executed, there were no problems. But Houck is not fixed in my view at all. And I'm still very cautious starting him at the moment.
Yeah, I had an opportunity in an NBC league to start. I basically had to start one of the two of them, and I started Houck. And who knows? Maybe it won't go my way. But I slightly better feel or trust in him. But yeah. Cubs. Your boy.
Cubs are a team.
Jameson
Taillon. They do exist.
Great effort tonight. But yeah, Cubs. I mean, it's also like the Cubs just as a team, before we get into the pitchers, like it has become a decent shot to get a win. I mean, the offense is clicking right now. The team is on a roll. And yes, they get the Yankees and the Dodgers in here, which are tough matchups, but like the Cubs rotation is pitching well and they're getting wins, and there's some interesting names here besides the two guys you have as autos.
I'm just checking the standings right now. The Cubs are 3 games back from Atlanta. You think they're going to do it?
No.
Well, there you go. You heard it here first, guys. They're 3 games back behind Atlanta, 2 games behind the Mets. Mets are 1 game out of the wild card right now.
Yeah, I know, it's wild.
Wow. I mean, it's the Mets, and this is what they do. I got to go to my bagel store tomorrow. I got to see what they're saying to me. They're only 6 games back behind the Yankees, which is kind of interesting too. I don't really spend too much time looking at the standings. Every like once a week, maybe I'll look at it. So it's always a nice surprise. Anyway, when it comes to the Cubs, I'm super happy, of course, for Jameson Taillon today. That's nice. You don't have too many you want to look forward to, though. You have the Yankees, you have the Coors, you have the Nationals, and the Phillies after. So maybe circle the Nationals one if you want, but I feel it's usually not enough of a push for a guy that just throws a lot of strikes. It's not something where you're expecting really 6 innings, a few base runners, and 7 Ks on a given night. Like hoping for that. That's not really in his wheelhouse. As far as Justin Steele and Shota Imanaga go, they both have questionable matchups in here. You get the Dodgers, Coors, and potentially the Phils for Steele, while Shota only gets the Dodgers. So with Justin Steele, I can see a case where after this Pirates game, it's going to be the Dodgers and then Coors. I don't know if you want to do that 2-step next week. Tough. Do you?
Yeah. I'd be inclined not to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I don't like. I think in some deeper leagues, you might feel like you have to, and that's fine. You might be in a position to, but I'd be looking elsewhere. Is he a talented enough pitcher that he could come out of that with 2 wins and look really good? For sure. But it makes me nervous. I'd rather start something that seems, nothing is a sure thing, but I'd rather start something that seems a little more of a sure thing.
Yeah, I think I'd do it. Honestly,
You do?
I think Steele has enough talent in his fastball and his different fastball shapes. I like, even though it's 2 bad matchups, I prefer having 2 bad matchups than obviously 1 bad matchup. And if you kind of look at it that way, of like you get Steele 1 game a week or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
then that's a benefit. And then it's the Nationals and the Phillies. I think you just got to do it. You get a better win chance than your general streamer, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You get more strikeouts than a general streamer. That's just about ratios, and it's possible he pulls that off.
Sure.
Got Javier Assad for a late streamer tag. I don't really like this. I know that he's done okay, and there are some of those guys that just throw these strikes with sinkers sometimes over the plate and whatever, and it's just, all right, I guess this one did well, fine. Like Colin Ray can fall into that too at times.
Right.
And this is the Yankees and Dodgers in the short term, so you definitely don't want to do that. And then it's Athletics, Nationals, and Reds after that. So maybe. And Jordan Wicks, he came back from the IL and didn't have a single strikeout. How am I supposed to butter my bread with that over 5 innings? But he only had 1 run, I think it was, or maybe not any of them. I mean, it was surprisingly effective in that regard, but the skills were not quite there. Just 16 inches of vert on the 4-seamer, not like the 17 plus that we saw before. Changeups were generally down. Sliders generally away. Like, it was, and he gets the Yankees and then Coors. So the way I see it with Wicks is he's a desperate streamer later in the month, maybe against the Athletics, maybe against the Reds. I don't feel like I want to do it. Like, I would very much prefer to go after Assad in those easier matchups.
Yes.
But
I was going to say
maybe there's a chance there.
Assad getting Oakland and Washington makes him a little bit more viable if you're looking for a streamer than just Oakland. And just to jump back on your Justin Steele point, like, listen, lefty against the Dodgers, that's Shohei, lefty, Freeman, lefty, Muncy, lefty, Will Smith hitting like poop in general. So I could see an argument that, like, if you get a good lefty on a solid night, the Dodgers lineup is slightly less dangerous than they might be otherwise.
Right.
Sure, take a gamble. Why not? I guess. Still makes me nervous. Last week we talked about my rostering of Davis Martin in AL Tout for the White Sox, and it went like kind of fine, I guess. Like, I wasn't blown away by it. There's not a lot left in here. I guess, you look at the Garrett Crochet schedule and you're thinking after Boston, he gets Oakland, the Angels, and you want to just like drool over that. But with the way they're using him, it's hard to get super excited about any of the White Sox guys.
Yeah, the White Sox, I mean, there is a question to be had. Like, Crochet just had 8 strikeouts. And I know it was 3.1 innings, and I know you really didn't get any of the ratio stuff. Obviously, you didn't get a win. But you still got 8 strikeouts.
Right.
And that's more than your average streamer, right? But yeah, even if he has 3 shutout frames with 1 base runner, that expression of those ratios is more limited than someone going 6 innings of good ratios, right?
Yeah.
So it's a tough question to answer. You probably are better chasing something else.
Though to your point, I will say, like, there are a lot of formats where you think like, oh, especially if I'm not like dying for saves, I love getting a multi-inning reliever. He's going to go 3 or 4 innings. He's going to get a lot of good ratios. So if you find yourself in that spot, then Crochet is great. If you look at it that way, he's not going to get a win. He's not a piggyback, so he's not going to steal a win by going 4 innings in relief. Sure. But he'll probably give you good ratios. I think it took a little while for him to like adjust to this weird pitching regimen they had him on, and there were some like really disappointing performances in just 3 or 4 innings. But I don't expect that against Oakland and the Angels twice.
Yeah, no. And there's also Nick Mastrini, who I will always hold out a little bit of hope for, because even when he was in the minors, he rated so well on our Fan 4+ scale with his 4-seamer, but the 4-seamer hasn't been well commanded in the majors, and he came back and actually wasn't the worst with that 4-seamer, but its stuff was rated lower. Slider's still kind of good. What's interesting about Maestrini is that if he does stick in the rotation now, eventually will be versus Oakland and eventually at Detroit. And if he gets those starts, I just can't help but wonder if he's worthwhile by then. I'm saying no, do not start, but maybe. Jonathan Cannon's your desperate quality start play if you need it. Davis Martin, it's interesting because I liked his changeup a lot. And his slider was looking really bad. And then he leaned into a slider, and the slider came back a bit, but the changeup isn't good now. And he will get the Angels twice. Maybe that's worthwhile. Maybe he goes 6. It's not complete yet. The floor is very low. I'd be careful with that. And Flexen, obviously, you don't want to go for Flexen. I know he might go to the beach at some point. It would make sense if it's against Los Angeles, the Angels, but it's going to be in Chicago. So no.
Yeah. That end of season appears to be, as of right now, a 2-step for Davis Martin. Angels, Tigers.
The last game of the season, if we're trying to predict who's going to start the last game of the season, you're going to get it wrong.
Yes.
You know,
all I'm saying is keep the name Davis Martin in the back of your mind for the end of the month. We'll see how the schedule looks like it's playing out, but there's a chance that he's getting, Angels, Tigers, and if you're in deeper formats, just don't be surprised by that.
Yeah, but here's the thing: there is a chance that we're going to talk more after this break.
You forced it. You forced it to get it. I
didn't force it. I wanted to take it from you. I thought it was really funny.
You did.
Got him. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, we're back. And Nick is right. We are going to talk more now after this break. We're going to talk about the Reds. I want to hear your thoughts first before we dive into the schedule specific stuff on your first look at Rhett Lauder. Your first look in a major league uniform at Rhett
I've
Lauder.
already really forgotten it. It was very pedestrian. I have no interest chasing Rhett Lauder at the moment, unfortunately. It's just not enough. That's simple.
That's fair.
The slider has looked good. There were moments I was like, oh, okay, that's a good slider. The fastball just does not do enough at all. And I'm going, yep, this is just not a guy that I want to go after. I have him as a desperate streamer here. Maybe he does well enough against the Cardinals or the Twins, Pirates, Cubs, but it just feels all that I just don't want to go for it.
Yeah. I think it's unfortunate if you look at the schedule. The only person here that I think you really care about is if the Reds bring back Hunter Green. And I don't know, man. Like I wrote the blurb for him on Monday when they said he's not going to throw for 2 weeks and then they're going to evaluate. And I was like, no, if he's not going to throw and then he's going to ramp up like in the last 2 weeks of the season when they're already eliminated, I get a weird feeling that he's not going to pitch again unless like he really pushes to like not end the season. Like he's in having a breakout year. He's really finally making good on the promise of that, who he was as a prospect. Maybe he, really wants one more start to end the year and he doesn't want to go out on the IL. And maybe that start comes against Pittsburgh and awesome. Great. Like you could use it. But I have a hard time banking on it happening.
No, I'm totally with you there. And the only other one I could think of is Brandon Williamson, maybe. There was a moment last year where Williamson was doing well in August and he got COVID. And Williamson at the Mets, you don't want to do. He's also limited under 70 pitches, I believe. And he was piggybacking with Jacob Junis. But then he'll get the Cardinals and then Atlanta and Cleveland. And there is a world where Williamson keeps the cutter they just had to as a 40% CSW across over 50% usage, which is nice. But the changeup wasn't there. And those are the two aspects of what made Williamson work last year. I'm just aware of him is all I'm saying. Andrew Abbott and Nick Lodolo, like, are they just done for the year? I don't know. I'm not totally clear on that one. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Fernando Cruz has been opening a bit, and that isn't really going to be stretched out. But hey, maybe they decide to go in 55 or 60 pitches and then it's 70 and so on. But that's too wild. And then there's also Connor Phillips and Chase Petty who exist. I don't know if we're going to see them at all, but they are hard throwing arms in Cincinnati. And if either of them happen to get one of those Pittsburgh starts, then maybe we actually are paying attention.
I was so into Connor Phillips last year.
And then he threw 12 balls to start again.
And it didn't work out. And, there are some pitchers who are working out a little more with the Cleveland Guardians.
Yeah, and we have Tanner Bybee and Gavin Williams, obviously, right?
Sure.
We're gonna probably do that. Even if Tanner Bybee.
We're going to lead off with your boy, though.
Well, I mean, I prefer the other two.
Oh, okay.
Because Matthew Boyd has to get the Dodgers first.
Sure, not great.
And I also don't know if Matthew Boyd is going to still have the slider and changeup he had in his last start. Right? He's not had a history of having both of those pitches. He's had hints of it, but I don't know where we're gonna get. And really, it's interesting to see, how Boyd does against a tough opponent, and if that will prevent him from showcasing those skills. If he doesn't have those, am I still going after it with the White Sox? I guess so.
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too. It's not gonna be so bad against the Dodgers, right? So then it's the Twins after, which I'm gonna be pretty tepid on. Maybe the Cardinals. I don't know.
Though I do want to point out with the Twins that they are maybe the most platoon heavy offense in baseball. And so Boyd won't see Kepler, won't see Larnach, won't see Wallner. He's going to get like Kyle Farmer and like a heavy dose of some of those right-handed bench guys who are
Royce Lewis, though, from the right side against the lefty.
Well, yes, there are good hitters. I just mean I think the Twins lineup is not as deep against lefties as it is against righties. There are still guys who will do damage. Buxton should be back by then. I think he's going to come back like later this week.
Oh, is that right? Oh,
yes.
Nice. I got him on the IL.
And there's still no timeline on Correa, but like maybe Correa comes back. We have no idea.
Yeah, that's in about 2 weeks.
Brooks Lee is back. But yeah, just something to keep in mind if you're in deeper formats in that regard.
Yeah, Matthew Boyd, it's not. I think he just pitched at his peak. It was true BSB without throwing mistakes over the middle of the plate. Really, he did such a good job with this. And usually when I see a start like that, I go, okay, well, this is not what I'm going to get every time, especially when you have a tough matchup after, where you likely won't be able to get away with that, and you're probably going to have to do more or feel less confident in what you're doing. So I'm a little scared of that, but yeah, sure. I'm going to go for the White Sox. And otherwise, you have Ben Lively, who's just kind of been Ben Lively. Last start it didn't really work, but like it's Ben Lively. Alex Cobb, who's flirted with perfection for a moment out of nowhere. The splitter was back is the thing. And we'll know if it's back again versus the Dodgers, even if the results aren't good, if it's working or at least going where he wants it to go. He'll get the Rays after. That should be okay. And Gavin Williams, yes, he does get the Dodgers, but I like the matchups enough after that I might just brave it against the Dodgers. Gavin Williams is really good. Elite fastball. So I'm a fan.
Good. I did like the way Alex Cobb looked in the last start. So see how that goes. Do you want depressing breaking news now, or should I wait until the appropriate team shows up?
Oh my gosh. It was appropriate team, but now I'm scared. I'm not. Oh no. Oh gosh. What is depressing breaking news?
Garrett Cole left the game with a trainer in the 7th.
No.
Yes.
No.
He warmed up to start the 7th inning and then left with a trainer.
No.
Yes. Obviously,
Eric.
It was the start. I'm just going to be the optimist here. It was the start of the 7th inning. He was warming up. They could have very well just been something where they were like, you're already deep enough into this game. It's not worth risking you continuing to throw.
Eric, why would you, Eric?
I asked if you wanted the depressing news.
You say depressing breaking news.
Yeah.
Eric.
Are you not depressed right now? You seem a little depressed.
I'm very depressed right now.
Yeah. It was a 7. They had a 7-1.
Says Frank.
They had a 7-1 lead, and there's no need to push him. I'm going to give you the glass half full read.
They haven't won the AL East.
Yeah, but they just they'll wait until the next start.
That's a buy at stake.
Yeah, but they already won this game, so no need to push them in this game.
Oh, you're saying that? I thought you were talking about like for September.
No, I'm saying he could have had a little tweak that they were like, we're taking you out of the game now. There's no reason to keep you in.
Oh my gosh.
That's my glass half full take. I don't have a glass half full take on the Colorado Rockies rotation.
Oh my gosh. What? Just kidding. I'm kidding. Rockies, yeah. We're not.
What a tremendous segue. And you just deflated the air out of the balloon.
What?
Is there anybody to talk about with the Rockies?
No, that was me. That was the bit. It's just like, what?
Yeah.
Rockies, who cares? We get more important things.
We do.
Move on.
Like, I guess the Tigers. I mean, there's one auto start we know, Tarek Skubal.
Yeah.
We talked about this when the Tigers said they were going to limit his workload down the stretch. That they said they would not limit his workload when he was in a game. That they might push him back a day, they might skip a start, whatever. It really hasn't been a thing that they've done so far. And if they do, we'll know when he's starting, and he's going to go as long as he needs to go in those games. And awesome. And I guess we might get Reese Olson back, and that makes us happy.
I mean, it does, but it also doesn't, because is he going to have enough time to do things?
No, probably not.
Yeah, I mean, the second start is the Rays, so at the very least, if you have him in your IL spot, then just don't activate him for the first one, and you'll see how many pitches he goes, and if he's good enough, and if he is, then great, you have a player for your next one against the Rays. But I don't know, that's the last week of the year. That's like Thursday or something, like, or Wednesday, and good luck with that one. Brent Herter honestly has been fine. He's been surprisingly decent. He's now getting an opener again, and he'll get Oakland, and maybe that is a win. Maybe you're going to steal that one. I do not like Ty Madden. Casey Mize was unimpressive. Kider Montero is a desperate stream against Rocky Road or the White Sox. So good luck with all of this, and we probably aren't getting Jackson Jobe.
Yep. Casey Mize, who went down to who while he was in the minors on a rehab outing, was working on lots of things that didn't show up when he came back to the big league level. But who knows? Go. Maybe they will. We got 3 auto starts for the Astros because Yusei Kikuchi has been lights out since joining Houston.
Oh, he's been so good. 4-seamer and slider all day. Justin Verlander got lit up today, though. Speaking of lights out, lights on.
Lights out.
And yeah, he's still gonna go with him against Oakland and the Angels and the Mariners. So whatever. Spencer Arrighetti has been on a heater, all right, and I mean those matchups are fine, I guess. I mean it's like at Cincinnati, which isn't ideal, at the Padres, which isn't ideal, and at Cleveland, which isn't ideal, but you're just gonna do that. Same with Hunter Brown, who has been finagling it all. They're not as auto as the others, but you're gonna do that. And Framber Valdez's curveball has been ridiculous. And it's kind of funny. Me and Jason Collette had this whole season-long battle of Cole Reagans versus Framber Valdez. And by like July 1st, it was like called, essentially. I was like, okay, we're done here. And no, Framber Valdez decided to be like, I'm going to be the best pitcher in baseball for the second half.
He's been great.
It's been kind of wild how good Framber has been. And that's pretty cool. And the biggest thing is that Ronel Blanco might be done after this next start. As they said, they're going to start transitioning to the pen soon. So do what you want there. I think he should be fine for that start against Arizona. But if you feel as if you need to go and get other things and you don't really need that Sunday start, then yeah, move on.
Yeah, I'm in the camp of moving on. Where I don't hate that matchup. I just don't know how high upside it is to hold on to somebody who I know won't have value for me after that start. But I get it. Kansas City. We also know Alec Marsh is only going to have one start, but that's a whole different ballgame. I bring that up just because he's going to leave the rotation when Lorenzen comes back in the rotation, and Lorenzen and Waka get 3 starts in a row that I enjoy for both of those guys.
Absolutely. It's at Pittsburgh, Detroit, and Nationals for Lorenzen, and then it'll be at Pittsburgh, the Giants and Nationals for Waka. I'd have more faith in Waka just because Lorenzen would be coming back from the IL stint. We also don't know when that's going to be. We're assuming that's going to be against Pittsburgh. Even if Alec Marsh gets that Pittsburgh start, I still don't think I want to do it. Even though he did okay against the Astros, I feel like that was a high end of what he does. And meanwhile, you have Brady Singer, the cherry bomb, so do whatever you want. Seth Lugo, who looked great against Houston. It was also one of those games where he had 9 pitches and none of them were making mistakes over the plate, but he still got strikes. It was pretty cool. And Cole Reagans, obviously, you're just going to start the rest of the way. So there are your Royal starters. I guess Seth Lugo, you're going to start against the Guardians, which means then it's worthwhile for the Yankees for the other 2 after. We were talking about dropping him last week, but he really came through against the Astros. So props to all of you who held tight there.
Yeah. Big news in Los Angeles. He's back, baby.
Is he though?
I don't know. I don't know. I just feel like if you were on like the quiet corner of the Twitterverse that we are fantasy baseball, the amount of people, analysts that I know and like, who were just livid every time that Reed Detmers would just light up AAA pitching and then never, or AAA hitters and then never get called up. But Detmers is back. And they also called up Samuel Aldeguerri, who's interesting because he's the first ever Italian-born, Italian-raised pitcher or player, I believe, actually, in Major League Baseball. Called up Caden Dana, who's their top pitching prospect. But you don't seem particularly interested for fantasy purposes in any of those guys for right now.
Yeah, no. Reed Detmers, from the last time I saw him on Savant, looking up the AAA data, nothing exciting going on there. Even though he had a 12 strikeout game, even that one was just not great as far as pitch shape goes and looking for what we want, which is four seamers being that elite vert pitch and sliders looking good down in glove side and so on and so forth. Also, when it comes to Aldeguerri and Caden Dana, both of them are pretty pedestrian in my view. At least Aldeguerri would get the White Sox at the end of it, but both of them would get the Astros twice and Texas in there as well. Caden Dana gets 2 Texas, and that's really it. And nope, I think Caden Dana isn't anything that's special for fantasy purposes. It's just a middling fastball and a slider that works, but like a normal slider kind of in the bigs. Tyler Anderson is also looking worse these days. His changeup is not as overwhelming as we've seen. His overall command is getting worse. It's almost like he's fatiguing a bit. And the other side of it is Griffin Canning and Jack Kohanowitz. And Griffin Canning does get the White Sox twice, but he's also not really come through in his streams. While Kohanowitz will get the White Sox twice as well. And he's a sinker baller. Like one of the last remaining dudes who'll go 70% sinkers and actually succeed at locating decently well that he can find 6 innings. It's kind of cool. I call them the jack of one trade, right? And it's awesome. But I don't want to start him against the Rangers and the Twins. But if you're desperate for a quality start, Jack Kohanowitz is kind of the guy that does that. If you are a single baller, you can find quick outs.
Right.
And that could work. Just don't expect more than 4 strikeouts at most.
Love that. Love that as a possible like AL only, really deep league call out for you. I think we should just stop recording this podcast though, because everything we say is just out of date in moments after I get a breaking news alert that
What happened now?
Justin Steele has elbow soreness and has been scratched from the start tomorrow. It's gonna be It's gonna be Kyle Hendricks.
No! No! Oh man. Justin Steele. My heart.
You gotta love it.
Like, gosh.
And people out there who are thinking about like, oh my God, now I have to like redo pickups and strategy. Imagine being the person who writes a whole article mapping out an entire schedule of all these rotations. And then you spend hours and hours and hours, and you're like, great.
The thing is, guys, look, you understand. You can swap in the player. That's the real benefit of it.
Not in this case.
No. But like, you put in the player into the spot, and then you still have the understanding of what value is and stuff, and updating that is very helpful. And I give my 2 cents on everyone. I didn't, I guess, on Hendricks, but not just don't pick up Hendricks.
It is it is still this is a useful endeavor, even though at times it feels frustrating when moments like this happen. You're like, you're killing me. But before we take our break, I think it's important, to really get the layup. Let's get a layup of this really easy to figure out Los Angeles Dodgers rotation.
Well, okay. So first of all, I just want to say it looks like it's a calf cramp for Garrett Cole. Okay.
It does. Yeah.
All right. We're okay. This Dodgers thing is also just a mess. I wrote 8 guys in here. 8.
Yeah, I saw that.
All right. Walker Buehler, at least he had an approach last time. Like, I've been seeing a lot of games of Walker Buehler, and it just felt like, I don't know what's going on. At least he tried to do things with cutters and curves and 4-seamers, but like, why isn't it the slider? I don't know. Bobby Miller, he fanned 9, but didn't really have a slider. Then he tried to have a slider, but then he didn't really do very well, and it was just throw more sliders. You'll get there, buddy. Maybe, hopefully, I don't know. At least they get the Angels next, and it's like I kind of just want to try. I want to try. I got to believe it. Gavin Stone.
I'm trying.
We're all trying. We're all just
So
innocent
hard.
men.
So hard.
Just normal men. Gavin Stone is last start. He didn't have his changeup working, and his slider wasn't that great, and didn't go so well. But the matchups aren't so bad, so I think you're just gonna go with that. Rabolski, Justin, just got destroyed by the Diamondbacks in one inning. 8 earned runs in that inning. However, it really got me thinking about one inning does not define a pitcher. And the fact that he went back out there and was decent after that, 2 runs in 3.1 innings or whatever it was. And that doesn't mean that he's going to be all of a sudden 8 more runs against the Guardians, right? There is a desperate stream there of possibility. Yoshinobu Yamamoto will come back at some point, and I don't know how much we're going to see of him.
Mhm.
So plan accordingly. Jack Flaherty, at least we got something. Okay. All right, buddy. Good job tonight. You're good. Everything's cool. Clayton Kershaw, he's got bone spurs in his toe or something, his foot. I don't know. He's not going to come back, or if he does, it's going to be limited. I don't want to touch him. I don't think you want to touch Kershaw. I don't want to touch him. And Glasnow, when he does come back, it's probably going to be eased into it to be ready for the playoffs. So really the only one I like is Flaherty and some Stone. And I want to dabble with Miller and Buehler.
Yeah, it's so wild. One of like the rotations we were like counting on. They just have depth for days, and you're like, I don't know if I want to use any of these guys down the stretch, but I get it.
So
and you got to roll the dice in some.
Yeah, you do. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just remember in March, we're talking about the Dodgers. Like, oh man, the Dodgers have so many. It's just like the only job is just to make sure they're all healthy through the year. And here we are during September, and it's like, like it didn't matter. They tried so hard and got so far, but in the end,
nothing really matters. Yeah. Love it. Great. Phenomenal. What does matter is that we're going to take a little break right now.
I had it. But in the end, we're going to take a quick break. I didn't realize what time it was, Eric.
I thought you just gave it to me as a layup.
You're welcome.
Which I appreciated. But you did. You had it. Would have been so good.
I was right there.
You know what's not so good? Is the Miami Marlins rotation. I don't know that there's anybody here really worth starting. I guess Adam Oller gets the Pirates and Nationals.
Yeah, he's kind of interesting.
Sure.
Yeah, you don't want to do Max Meyer. It's just a slider, and that slider finally woke up for like double-digit whiffs, but everything else wasn't good. So there you go. Valente Biazzo, no. It's a desperate stream. Like he's had moments with cutters upstairs and forcing him like I don't want to do this. Adam Oller, maybe. He had his curveball at least working, and he's very cross body, which means that if he does get his fastball in the zone and the curveball working too, oh my gosh, he gets the Pirates and the Nationals. He did well against the Giants. I was at that game. And of course, I can't do any analysis when I'm at a game. I'm like, okay, I can't see anything. Great, cool. Yeah. And Edward Cabrera, he's still a cherry bomb. And the thing is, yes, you see the Phillies and Pirates and Dodgers and Atlanta and Jays. I want to say he will do well against the Pirates, but who knows which game he will do well. It really just depends on the day that he has his stuff. If he has his stuff, that's great. And I don't know who the number 5 is going to be. If it's going to be Darren McConaughey, okay, fine. No, that's not how you pronounce his name. How do you pronounce his name? McCoffin?
Let's go with that. Because then I don't have to verbalize an answer out loud. It'd be so wrong. But I think your answer is good enough for me.
Oh man. Yeah, you don't want to go for him. So
yeah.
They have a low win chance too. You don't love.
Yes, that's a generous way of putting it. They do. You know who drives me crazy?
Who?
Freddie Peralta.
Yes, Professor Chaos.
Yeah, did it tonight or today.
Really? Again?
I mean, just in the sense of like,
oh yeah,
you're looking at the Cardinals. You're like, all right, this is not a lineup that he should struggle with too much. He seemed to have been turning the corner at times, and then you're like, cool, we got a start that's like not really useful for me in any way, shape, or form. There weren't really strikeouts.
You did get a win.
Yeah,
you got a dub.
That's true. I got a dub. That's true.
Okay.
So I don't want to. I'm complaining too much. It wasn't usful in a lot of ways.
Sure.
I thought
the early aughts, we got a dub.
Yeah, we did. Listen, I do want to talk about Frankie Montas because he has looked much better since coming to Milwaukee. And the next 2 starts, against Colorado at home and then against the Giants are not terrible matchups.
Yeah, so you do your mixing it up article.
I do.
What have you noticed about Frankie Montas?
Well, so I will just say that I have switched over the mixing it up article over the final weeks of the season
Oh,
to focus more on schedules and streamers since we're doing so much of that right now as well.
fair
Um,
enough.
but I will say that when I was looking into Frankie Montas since coming over to the Brewers, I noticed that one of the same things you noticed, which is a lot of fastball velocity, which is not entirely about team
Yep.
change, but he's leaned into the four seamer more. I don't know if that's because it's something the Brewers want him to do, or that while the velocity is that good, they are like leaning into it more. But what
Mhm.
I noticed, I found interesting, is like I have always associated Frankie Montas with the splitter. And he's really cut down on the splitter and slider usage since going to the Brewers.
Yeah, it's so in these 6 games, he's increased his fastball velocity. We've seen 97 at times when he's really like a 95 and change guy. Four seamer swing strike rate's about 16%, and it's for the season at 12%, so it's probably like 11 or so before these 6 games for Montas's four seamer. But he just 11.5% on the splitter. He's really become a four seamer cutter guy with some sinkers, and that's all right. That's kind of cool. I love the fact that he's trying to go Blake Snell blueprint with that four seamer upstairs. So he had one game where it was like sub 30% high lock, but everything else was 45 to 50%.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he does get Rocky Road and the Giants. That's kind of intriguing. The thing is that Frankie Montas is so boring, and it can be
Sure.
so pedestrian of like a 5-inning 4-run game, or 3 walks and 4 Ks, and you're just like, So it's up to you if you want to go after. But if you're at the bottom of the barrel, I think a lot of people have just completely moved on from Frankie Montas, where there might be some value for you to be getting there.
Yeah. It's one of those ones where I'd grit my teeth and bear it because I think that the matchups are good enough, but I don't know that I'd want to like watch it or invest too much in it.
Yep.
There's some much better matchups with the Twins. I should note before we dive into those matchups, you want to go back?
Yeah, well, we didn't. It's Aaron Savali, who's didn't do
True.
well in his last ones. He's got 2 good starts. He did really well in his last start, but it's 2 good matchups. But his curveball and super aren't really quite as good, and I'm not buying in. Colin Ray, do whatever you want, guys, against the Cardinals and Giants. I don't believe it, but he does do okay. Tobias Myers, I dig. I still dig him. I know it was a weird matchup. I think of like what was it, 11 base runners, 7 hits and 4 walks or something, but maybe it was 8 hits and 7 Ks. I don't know. Anyway, I like what he does with his four seamer. I like that he's trying to expand his repertoire more as well. Gets Rocky Road. Like, I'm rolling with that. And I feel, yes, everything that you feel about Freddie Peralta, but it's Rocky Road. It's Arizona twice in the
Yes.
Pittsburgh Pirates. You're just gonna do it, and
Yeah, you are.
good luck.
You are. It's just like it might be entirely frustrating, but you are
Yeah.
going to do it.
Sorry, so the Twins.
Well, I
Haha.
was gonna say, and I was even gonna say before we get into the Twins, I haven't said this in weeks past, but it is just a reminder that it is very helpful. If you would like to rate and review this podcast, download it, all that kind of stuff. It is helpful to get that podcast out there, to have people
Yes.
listen to it. It's helpful for us to make sure we're doing the job that you want us to be doing, covering things in the way that you would like us to be doing it. So please, if you can, rate and review, download, let us know how you think we're doing.
Yeah, please do.
And we'll tell you how we think the Twins pitchers are doing. There's some decent matchups coming up. I thought there were some decent 2 starts this week. Unfortunately, the first start that I was interested in with Simeon Woods Richardson was terrible today, and he's been terrible for, I guess, the last 2 starts. And I wonder if this is, Cinderella pumpkining a little bit.
Yeah, it feels like that a bit for Simeon Woods Richardson, which is funny because I was just starting to come around and understand him a little bit better. But yeah, it's also 2 bad matchups at the end with the Red Sox and Baltimore. So really, if you're holding on to SWR now, it's at Kansas City and then the Reds in Minnesota. Maybe that Reds one works. I think it's not really worth your while against Kansas City. So I think you're just generally moving on. I'd be much more interested in his teammate David Festa Rays
Mhm.
and
Yeah,
Angels
for
are the
sure.
next two. Slider showed up in the last start. We love that.
And
Pablo
leaned into it a
Lopez
lot too.
is
He upped
the
the usage on it a lot too.
yeah, finally, because it was really low before, and all of a sudden,
Mhm.
bam, there it was. It's great to see it. Pablo Lopez, he is the face of today's list article. Has happened all year. Did you have a title of today's list? If you didn't, I'll give you a moment as to talk about Louis Varland,
Well,
who apparently it's gonna be like a 6-man rotation now. I don't know. Rays and Angels are next. I'm not ready to jump in with Louis Varland, but maybe he impresses us enough against the Rays that I feel good against the Angels. I'm not quite there. Zebby Matthews and Bailey Ober, both of them have had horrible single games across the last week. And Bailey Ober showed us, like, yeah, everything's fine. It's one stupid game and I'm good. And Zebby Matthews should do the same against the Royals, Reds, Guardians in Cleveland, and the Marlins. So if you have Zebby Matthews, you should still feel very good about it and keep starting him. But if you're in a situation where he's your weakest arm and you are considering a streaming spot for a couple plays, or it's the Royals or Zebby Matthews, I would just take this couple streaming plays. You don't really need Zebby Matthews. He should be solid. Think of him like a good Holly, but not an ace kind of arm moving forward.
yeah, I just wanted to weigh in and say that like I wouldn't weigh last night's start too heavily in your evaluation of Zebby Matthews. Like he had looked pretty good, not dominant, but pretty good in his first few MLB starts. Rookies are going to have bad starts here and
Shag
there as
Rug.
they adjust to big league hitters. Um, Again, like you mentioned, the matchups aren't great, but Reds at home, like I'm not shying away from it. So yeah, don't, and if he gets the Marlins at the end of the year, don't run away from Zebby Matthews because of one bad start and what it does to his ratios.
Yep.
This title might not be great, but it was the first thing that popped into my head when I thought of the name Pablo, and I was going to call this this edition of the list, and I was like Pablo. Because it's not really his name, but it just reminds me of the Night at the Roxbury where they go, and I was like, Emilio.
Oh man, I saw that movie. I sprained my neck doing the Night of the Roxbury dance for a week. Yeah. I didn't go to poly prep camp because of that movie. Well, and I don't know that reference.
You shouldn't have admitted that. It's the where Will Ferrell's talking about how he saw Emilio Estevez. And who was that guy? Emilio Estevez. And what
there you go. Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love it. By the way,
like,
the Twins might be shifting around some stuff for the playoffs, which is why maybe Louis Varland is here. Maybe they're trying to slow some other guys down. I don't know what the situation is. Yeah. We might see some shifting of this rotation as the year goes on because it is 6-man at the moment.
Yeah, something to monitor. It also is kind of 6-man with the Mets, but there's also moving parts there with some injuries, and Paul Blackburn may be coming back, but is Tyler McGill going to stay in the rotation? Is Jose Budo going to go back in the rotation? But Jose Budo did get a save, so he's kind of working as like a high leverage reliever. So we don't really know what the Mets are going to do. But as you mentioned a little while ago, the Mets are firmly back in the playoff hunt, and they're throwing everything at these games because they matter.
It's pretty wild. David Peterson, you're just going to start because he's on a Vargas rule, and I don't believe it at all. But you just do it. That's that. Tyler McGill didn't really look too sharp. He did get sliders down at least, but he's still kind of missing that last little bit of electricity to make him Ty Lord McGill again. Mm-hmm. But he does get the Red Sox, so I guess so. He gets like Red Sox and then Jays, like fine. Jose Quintana isn't looking amazing, but it is the Reds away from Cincinnati and the Jays and the Nationals. Like, oh, okay, fine. John Manaea looks like a man possessed, so you're just going to do that. Sure. Luis Severino, he gets the Reds and then he gets the Phillies twice and then Atlanta. I'm like, I don't really feel like I need to do this. But just go with the Sunday one for Severino. And Paul Blackburn, when he does return, I mean, it's going to be the Phillies twice in Atlanta. Like, it's Paul Blackburn too. Even if you were getting the Nationals, would you want to do that? I don't think so. So, yeah, not for me.
Yeah, I get that. Yankees, we already talked about the Garrett Cole situation, which we don't assume will impact this start against the Cubs, but something to keep an eye on as we do the analysis. That again, we think it's calf cramping. Who knows what the Yankees decide to do with that? Maybe they do hold him out for one start. Who knows? But there are no matches you're really like scared of here, except for the 1 3-game series against Baltimore at the end of the year.
Yeah, this is a case where I want to like Nestor Cortez and Marcus Stroman more, but they're just so boring and they're
Mhm.
so frustrating, and they never really make you pump your fist. But Carlos Rodon and Garrett Cole, I think you're just going to roll with. Luis Heel is going to come back, and don't feel like you have to sacrifice things to get Luis Heel. Yes, I do think at Seattle should be good, but if he gets that one, and is it going to be a limited start and all of this stuff? Clark Schmidt is apparently going to be coming back, and I would at least monitor that because, yes, at Cubs is still ill, but then you get the Red Sox and at Seattle, and that could be interesting as a desperate stream. So definitely monitor that first one. Maybe he does improve to be a solid play by then. But yeah, I mean, I guess the biggest takeaway is just you don't have to hold on to Stroman, Heel, or Cortez at this point, right? If
Mhm.
you're in a weird situation and one of those guys is the bottom option, yeah, you can move on. It's the playoffs, guys. We'll figure it out together. Okay, you don't have to hold on to them.
Yeah. Uh, you got to be ruthless in your cuts. There's some interesting pitchers though for the A's. I mean, we've the same guys we've talked about, primarily Osvaldo Bido and JP Sears. Um, kind of matchup based. They both got um, two steps or two start weeks this week. And yeah, I mean, I could. It took me a while to buy into Beto, but like
Me too.
Tigers, White Sox, and then maybe the Cubs. Like maybe the Cubs have cooled by then. Who knows? But like I could see it.
Right. I mean, I can see it too. He didn't do well against the Mariners today, which is very unfortunate. 5.1 innings of 4 runs, and not really what you're looking for there, of course. You'd also have JT Ginn, and I know it sounds crazy. He's a sinker baller with a slider, and it looked kind of good. He just threw under 70 pitches, and he'll get Seattle tomorrow and then the Tigers. And I'm so curious if he looks all right and stretched out for the White Sox after. That could be kind of cool. You have JP Sears, who's a cherry bomb. He'll get the Mariners and White Sox, and the Mariners again. But of course, you have the Astros and Yankees in between. So with Oakland, I see them as a collective, desperate streaming team. Maybe you're holding on to Beto, fine. But when it comes to Sears, Estes, and Spence, they are your backup options. If you got nothing else, like Spence's cutter and slider are looking really good. And Joey Estes, yeah, you could probably do fine against the Mariners later this week, right? So if you need desperate strikeouts, Sears, maybe that four-seamer's cooking upstairs with a changeup, actually backing it up properly. That's how I see the Athletics right now. No one that I'm forcing myself to hold. If I had to choose one, I'd probably go with Beto against the Tigers and White Sox.
Yeah, I mean, people forget like Jin was not a top prospect, but like he was a well regarded prospect.
I forget.
And so it's not like it's it's not like he came out of nowhere. I mean, it took him a while, and then I know that like he was brought up in relief and all that kind of stuff. But he was a well regarded prospect for the Mets. And listen, there have been a lot of well regarded prospects for the Mets that
Yeah.
haven't amounted to anything. But yeah, like I think at one point, like he was one of their like top 10 prospects within their system. So who really knows? And he's been with Oakland for like 4 years now.
Oh yeah, and you know what's
I
been
think
going on for 4
he was
years?
in like the Bassett trade. I think
You know what's been going on for 4 years? This
this
podcast.
episode.
But guess what? We have to take another break. We've got the Phillies next. Tell us about the Phillies, Eric.
Well, you were auto starting Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola because
Yes.
of course you are. And then there's some good starts in here for the Christopher Sanchez, Ranger Suarez. Tyler Phillips is, still in this rotation. He had a really good stretch where everybody was kind of
It's like 2-3 games. Yeah.
picking him up, but who really knows?
That was like 4 innings, 6 innings, 8 innings. And then it was like, okay, we're done. Yeah, he has a decent curveball, and that's about it, really. Like, I don't want to do this, even though it's against the Jays and the Marlins. Christopher Sanchez and Ranger Suarez, I think they're good enough just to roll out moving forward. So pretty simple stuff there with the Phillies.
Yeah. Pirates, not simple stuff. There's, we got Skeens. Jared Jones is back. this start against the Cubs was kind of better than the first start against the Cubs, but still not great.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't know.
yeah, look, I think that Jared Jones' stuff is still amazing. Gets the Nationals next. Like, you're going to love that one. You're going to roll with Jared Jones. Paul Skeens, we don't know when he's going to get shut down, but you just run with him as well. Your boy Luis Ortiz and Bailey Falter both get the Nationals and the Marlins. So they're early streaming options. They also get the Cardinals after that, but they don't likely be either the Reds or the Brewers. I don't know. Sure if I really want to go after those, but with both of them, I could see it working out. With Ortiz, I'm going to favor him a little bit, even though the four-seamer wasn't quite there in the last one. Domingo Germán exists, and I kind of wish he didn't. And then you have Mitch Keller against the Nationals and Royals and Cardinals and Brewers. And yeah, he's a cherry bomb. Like, I do what you want with that one. You never really know what you're going to get. He's just so hittable. So I'm not really excited to go after Bailey Falter at Luis Ortiz, but I'm okay with it.
Yeah. I just wish Jared Jones' start today was better. That's all it is.
I know.
You've kind of convinced me.
Bubba Chandler, and he'll excite us. That'll be cool.
Yeah. You've convinced me a little bit on Bailey Falter as well from earlier episodes. We finally got into the team that we were alluding to at the beginning, where we talked about they were making a change in the rotation. And that's because it seems like Yu Darvish is going to start on Wednesday against the Mariners. Yeah, I mean, he has been throwing. Allegedly, he's been throwing.
I'm not starting. This is a still ill, guys. Like, he has no rehab starts. Just see how he is. The good news is that he'll be back in time to get a start against the Mariners. And instead of his still ill being a Mariners start, it's going to be that. The problem, I know, problems, it's stupid, is that it would be then the Houston Astros after, which is just, I don't want to do this. And then it's possibly gets the White Sox, but it's probably going to be the Dodgers. I don't know. There's a lot of annoyance after that, at the next two starts for Darvish, which is frustrating because you don't really want to start for the first one, and you're only really going to get one out of them, which is, I think, the next one after against Seattle. So at least we got that going for us. If you want to chance it, by all means, but we really are in the dark about how many pitches and how good he'll look, and it's up to you completely. For the rest of this rotation, I mean, you're going with Musgrove indefinitely, you're going with Cease indefinitely, going with Michael King indefinitely. So that just really leaves Matt Waldron. No. Are we even going to see Matt Waldron? Because actually Darvish is coming up, so maybe he just goes away.
Sure.
And then it's Martin Perez, who could be pretty sneaky against the Giants twice. Maybe that does work out in your favor.
Joe Musgrove, really good today. Really good schedule. We're finally getting the Joe Musgrove delivering after we talked about him as a top 20 starter to start the year, and it didn't really go so well. But he's coming through where it matters.
Absolutely. What's interesting is his last start too. He didn't really have his breaking balls, but I'm really happy they came back today. And I'm excited to look into if he is still throwing that harder slider, because that, I think, is a really legitimate pitch that he flexed in his return to the majors.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to see if he did throw it. He might have. Yeah, I think he did. He has a large differentiation because Savant says that it's a cutter, but it's not. I'm seeing vertical breaks of 22 to 39 on the cutter, and that can't be in the range of 86 to 91. So I think the 86 to 88 or so is actually that harder slider, while above that is the cutter. And overall, that cutter did well, 36% CSW. So I still think it's helping him out. And I think it's a really good pitch for Musgrove. So I'm still rolling with this. Also, man, only 24% fastballs. Thank you. You had your secondaries working enough that you didn't need to rely on the fastball in situations that you shouldn't do it for a 50% CSW on the curveball. It's good, Joe Musgrove, guys.
It's great, Joe Musgrove. We're gonna get Robbie Ray back, we think.
Maybe
in this. I was trying to think of a Robbie Ray team, and I said like three all at the same time. It didn't make sense, but it's a Giants rotation.
It's late, guys. All right, it is late on a Monday. It's been Labor Day weekend. The brains aren't working right.
I got to ask you a little bit about Logan Webb, because it hasn't been great of late. Padres, Orioles, Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
Could you see yourself in a shallower format, or maybe in like a 12-team league where you have been good on the wire? Could you see yourself benching him if you had like a deep roster of
I mean,
startable
sure.
pitchers?
I feel like Logan Webb is one of those you just start regardless, and he is always going to have an elevated hit per nine because he's just a sinker baller. He's a guy that he's going to allow more balls in play, and Koufax above is sometimes going to be looking the other way. So that means that BABIPs are going to be higher than you want them to be. And for the case of the Marlins, they just got consecutive hits in the right time, and they score a lot of runs against Webb. That happens. It's possible that you want to bench him, and that's the thing you want to do. I think you just roll with it and just close your eyes and do it with Logan Webb. I think if you big brain it too much, you'll probably hurt yourself. I don't think that Logan Webb is just going to go bad in these because of these 4 matchups. Is one of them going to be kind of whatever? Yeah, probably. Maybe even 2. But I think it's a better probability than what you'll likely find on your wire.
There you go. Had to ask, had to know. Now we do. Auto starts for pretty much all of these Seattle Mariners, as they have been for pretty much the entire year.
Oh, yeah. I mean, say for Bryce Miller against the Yankees and the Astros, I just won't do that. I'll do it with Logan Gilbert, but I won't do it with Bryce Miller. I also do want to mention, though, you might be thinking, hey, Mason Black looked pretty good for the Giants. Should I go with that? No, don't do it. You get the Padres. You don't want to do it. Blake's not you're going to do. Absolutely. Hayden Birdsong, my gosh, you don't want to do. Absolutely not. Mislabeled on my thing. Don't do it. And then Robbie Ray, when he does come back, I'm actually like, if you have Robbie Ray, you can just kind of drop him. If you're in a roster crunch, it's weird because you'd almost start him against the Brewers, and then he's going to get the Padres, and then the Royals, and then the Cardinals, and it's going to be a coin flip, really, from there. So if you're in a tough situation this week and Robbie Ray is the one play, then I don't know. I don't even think you want to activate him for that Brewers one, which might mean that you are stuck with roster spot the next week too. It's confusing. I want to hold on to Robbie Ray and see how it goes, but I can see myself I can see myself in a situation that I don't want to put myself in of expecting too much for the future and not getting enough value now. And Kyle Harrison, I just don't want to touch whatsoever.
Yes. I apologize for skipping through those names on the Giants. Was just trying to get us through, just trying to get us through.
Great. I'm so sorry. I keep pulling us back. Easy for the Mariners. We can just move on past them.
Yes. True. And listen, you're giving the people the information they need, the information. So that's great. Deep rotation again for the Cardinals. Another 6-man. And a lot of guys where they're not. I mean, we have Sonny Gray as an auto, and some other guys you're dancing through the raindrops. You're picking some starts, and you're not interested in others.
Yeah. So with the Cardinals, it's Eric Fetty's kind of a streamer, or really like a Toby, I guess. It's fine.
Would you do the Milwaukee start though for Fetty?
It's like Milwaukee's Milwaukee. They're whatever. They're whatever. That's how I see it. And then with Lance Lynn, you don't want to do it. Miles Michaelis, you don't want to do it. Andre Palante, he didn't do well today. He's been kind of on a roll though, and it's the Reds and Pirates, and that could be good in the early form or the early 2 starts for streams there. And Sonny Gray, I think you're just going to roll with. So between Gibson and Fede, Gibson obviously getting the Mariners benefits him. But I mean, I think both with Fede and Gibson, I think you're just going to roll with it until the cores at the end.
Yeah, you can. You cannot do cores in the end. I don't think so. I mean, for Sonny Gray, you could theoretically, and hope for the best. The Rays. This is not a schedule. Like you look at, the color coding in all of yours too, but like another team where like I'm used to them having dominant arms, and I'm just like, Jeffrey Springs has been pitching great, but he hasn't gone past 5 innings. So you're walking a tightrope. You're probably not going to get wins for a Rays team that hasn't been great, and he's also only pitching 5. And what is that going to mean for strikeout totals? And I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, with Jeffrey Springs, I feel like you're okay, though. I mean, you're going to go with him against the Twins. I think if he has his changeup and his four-seamer, I mean, really his changeup working, I think he's going to be productive for you. Tyler Alexander, you don't want to touch TLX. Taj Bradley is too much of a cherry bomb. Ryan Pepio is a strange one. because I don't want to start him against the Orioles. I just consider him a cherry bomb right now, and he has to go into Cleveland, so that's a home run threat. And then the Jays and at Boston, and all of that's just kind of not ideal. And then you have Shane Baz, same kind of a situation, but I do trust Baz a little bit more than Pepio consistently. So at Cleveland and then Boston and at Detroit, as opposed to at Fenway for Pepio at the end of that, is better. And then there's Littell, who's just a desperate stream that I really just don't want to go with because he just goes dancing in the disco. That is sliders over the plate, and it's ugh. So Springs and Baz are the two I'm most confident in, and Ryan Pepio. If you have him now, it's okay to drop him because those are not guaranteed successful starts after this Baltimore one.
Oh, yeah. I'm just looking at the a lot of guys I was relying on at some points. I've also dropped Taj Bradley in every league because he's also been bad. So there's that on top of it all. I can't believe I'm seeing this name in green for the Texas Rangers. And no, it's not Cody Bradford, who you have as an auto start because of a great schedule.
It's a great schedule. He's good.
It is.
Yeah.
I'm shocked that I'm seeing the name Jacob deGrom.
How could you not start him
in the year 2024? No, I'm just saying I'm surprised. I didn't think I would have bet at the beginning of the year we weren't going to see him this year, especially when the Rangers kind of fell out of contention.
Yeah, sure.
I would have thought he wouldn't pitch.
Yep.
So happy that he's going to. Would love to. Can't wait to see him on a mound. Yes, I agree with you. You got to start him. I'm just surprised that we're here, but you have Eovaldi, DeGrom, and Bradford as auto starts.
I mean, I think it's pretty clear. Eovaldi does get the Yankees, but I think you're just going to coast through that. Heaney is an interesting one because he does get the Yankees, and then it's really nice of the Angels and Mariners twice, and then the Angels, and that could work. That could be so nice and beautiful, but then it's Andrew Heaney. And I don't really know. I don't really know. So I go back and forth on that one. Jack Leiter does get the Angels, and that's a desperate play for strikeouts if you really want to go for it, but I don't think he's polished enough yet. And Tyler Mahle, he could be back for one game against the Mariners is what we have right now. I don't know. It's just still ill in that case. He was down in velocity before. You don't want to go for that. And honestly, John Gray is here, and John Gray does not look good. I wouldn't go for this Angels start. I don't really think I would go for any of them until he actually looks locked in. And the aforementioned Cody Bradford's amazing schedule is lovely because he's just pitching so well with that amazing extension and a good changeup and slider to go with that fastball upstairs. But yeah, I'm just stoked for Jacob deGrom. It's gonna be really, really fun.
It's gonna be a lot of fun. I was like weeks ago thinking that the last two John Gray starts, it was like Oakland and the Angels, and I was like, oh, John Gray is gonna be a good pickup for those two starts. And it turns out no is the answer to that. No, he's not gonna be a great pickup because he was terrible in that last start. We got to talk about Bowden Francis. Bowden Francis. Because we talked about him a lot.
Yeah, we do.
In the preseason. And it didn't happen.
No.
And then it has happened. But I still don't know that it's happening to the extent that I feel comfortable starting him against the Phillies.
What is happening?
What's happening is that Francis has added a splitter. And apparently that was what he needed.
Yeah, it's okay. I watched against your boys, all right, in Fenway.
I mean, they've been terrible. They just got
he threw these four seamers over the plate, and they just popped it up.
Yeah,
and his breaking balls did not help much. His splitter didn't help much. It was just like these fastballs, like a 2-0 count. Here's a pop up. Like I was really shocked by it. I'm still scared of this Philly start. But I mean, I recognize the guy's just been killing it. If you have him on your team, you're just going to roll with it. Now, Chris Bassett does get hit one more bad matchup against the Phillies, but after that, it's fine. And you're just going to do that. Kevin Gausman, sure, you're just going to do that. Barrios, you're going to do that. Neither of those guys have really startling matchups. And then these Yaro Rodriguez, you don't want to do that. So there you go. Easy.
Yeah, easy peasy.
Oh man.
Corbin Carroll.
Eric.
2-start week this week.
Eric, do you believe this? Are you in on the Patrick Corbin train?
Yeah, I am. I can't believe I'm saying it, but I have a buddy who's in the semifinals of a head-to-head league, and I said I think he gave me the list of pitchers that were available in his league, and I was like, yeah, I think Patrick Corbin is your best bet for this week.
I cannot believe we're at this point right now that this man is being recommended by me. Patrick Corbin against the Marlins and the Pirates this week because he has a harder cutter that he threw the last 2 games. He took down the Yankees with it. It looks legit. He's thrown over 20 in 2 straight games. This is the only moment of the year that I might actually want Patrick Corbin on my teams. Let's go. Come on, Patrick. You got this for us. Bring it
And
out.
just so people are aware, it is Miami, Pittsburgh, Miami for Patrick Corbin. Is what
and what's
Nick
even
is referring to.
crazier to me is like I feel like it's that ridiculous sci-fi story where they've done so much damage. They've been such a villain for so long, but then the author wants to act like because this person does one redeeming act, their whole soul is saved. You know, they destroyed all these humans, but this one was saved in one moment. Thus, they're fine and good. No, but you can do it to our fantasy teams now, Patrick Corbin. Come on, buddy. Please. You got this.
And that also like only slightly overshadows that for the next couple of weeks, like a lot of these guys have like DJ Hers, Pittsburgh, Miami, Mets, you're like kind of hesitant about, but not totally hesitant because we've seen DJ Hers be a pitcher where if he's on, like the Mets are an offense he can handle. The Mackenzie Gore, Jake Irvin early season success has petered out a little bit. But the Nationals guys have some interesting starts coming up.
Yeah, it's I wish they were just better though. Like Mackenzie Gore, you get 2 against Miami, but I don't believe in either one really.
Right.
Jake Irvin's curveball is not the old curveball. DJ Hers, I hope the changeup is there against Pittsburgh, Miami. But you're a cherry bomb, so we don't know. But Mitchell Parker against Miami and Pirates, not in that order. That could work. He had 7 for 11 in a very convenient manner, whiffs with his slider. That was nice. I like to see that from Mitchell Parker, and this is 2 good matchups here, so he might be a very sneaky stream in both of those games.
Yeah. That's everybody. That's all the teams.
That's it.
We got
That's
there.
all of it. My gosh. Who is your number 1 stream that we talked about, and why is it Patrick Corbin?
It is not Patrick Corbin.
No, it's not.
Sadly, like coming into the article I wrote, I'll own it. Like it was at the time, Brian Bayo was under 50% rostered, and I saw the Mets and the White Sox, and Brian Bayo was my top stream of the week. Because I just thought, like, how could that go wrong? Again, at the end of the day, it might not go wrong if he pitches well against the White Sox. I love the Cody Bradford schedule, and he's still rostered in far too few leagues. So I think he counts as a streamer in a lot of ways, and that's great. Obviously, I agree with you. Can't believe I'm saying it on Patrick Corbin as kind of like a deeper option. And then Osvaldo Bido this week at least got Seattle and Detroit, and David Festa too.
David Festa was a fun one. Albert Suarez, right? That's the guy that I'm like, okay, I'm circling that one in place. I think don't overlook Joey Estes against the Mariners. I think that's just a quiet whatever stream that should be okay. But you got options, guys, and you got this lovely article to help you get there. So good luck to everybody.
And I added DJ Hers in formats.
DJ Hers.
Throw that out there.
Yeah, cherry bomb. Oh boy, good luck. Who knows? Hopefully it's there.
Boom, boom, boom. That's it. So we're gonna keep doing this. On Thursday, I will put out my streaming ranks. Nick does his streaming ranks every single day. Mine's gonna be looking at the week ahead. So it's kind of like a preview of what the next episode of the list might be. But then again, the weekend that happens between Thursday and the list will drastically change everything that we're talking about. So just another note to, continue please to like keep an eye on the news and the pitching schedules, because these things will alter as we go through it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'll have one more edition of the list that's just like this. And then starting on the 16th will be my full stream starts for 2 straight weeks every single day. The full table's done. And that will be it. then the season will be over. I think my plan right now is to have my top 100, or sorry, my top 200 for 2025 out the Tuesday or Wednesday. I think Wednesday after the season ends. So I'm kind of the guy that's just like, I need to, wipe my hands clean, be done, and return to it later on. So look forward to that. But Eric, thank you so much for spending the late evening with me here.
And thank you for accommodating our late evening chat. I am Eric Samulski, the Pelican.
I'm Nick Pollack, the Lion.
And I'm just gonna go to sleep right now.
Goodbye.